Good evening. This is Cab here to drive you crazy, and this is going to be my next sports talk. I was supposed to do one last week, but unfortunately my wife actually was kind of out of town, so I had to be watching over baby a little bit more than necessary, so I wasn't really able to get onto my computer to be able to do a recording. So this is my next week of Boston Sports Talk with Cab. So from what I had talked about from last week, or the previous week, excuse me, which was just the little basics of what was going on at the time, and now continuing on from this point, which is looking at the standings right now. We're going to go in with the Bruins. The Bruins currently sitting at 14-7-4, and had lost their last game to the Rangers after beating the Rangers the previous game with the same score, 4-0. Just continuously showing that even though that the Bruins are doing really good right now, they are still currently sitting in fourth place in their division, right behind the Penguins, Capitals, and the Islanders. Again, I'm not able to watch any of this. I have been relying a lot of my resources from whatever I can find online through their official page, or even just some of the other sites that I actually go to watch their live play-by-play for the games whenever I have the opportunity to, because again, I'm not having the most chances as of late to be able to get on to watch everything I want to watch, and especially follow up on the games. But where I am seeing right now, the Bruins are just, they are a good team right now. I do see them being as a playoff team right now, but as where it stands, they have not beaten the Islanders at all this year, and the Islanders, I believe, have like 4 games up on them all the times that they have played this year. And it's just hard for me to say that if we ever had to verse the Islanders in the playoffs, especially with this shortened season, we have a better chance of getting in maybe a lower seed if we don't start actually picking up our play. We had a really good start, and we have been kind of falling back and losing a lot more games as of late, which is where my concern is, and especially, like I said, to the certain teams that have proven that they can beat us. So as for the standing right now on the Bruins side of it, I am still very optimistic on them making the playoffs, but to see exactly how far they can get through and into the playoffs is where my questioning becomes, because of who they may end up playing against. Now, they've shown good signs against playing the Penguins. They haven't played the Capitals that much this year, and they've had very tough outs with either the Rangers, the Flyers. We've had our good games against the Devils and all that. So it does show that this team can go pretty far, but the struggles are there, and why I would say we would definitely need to show that we can be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to our scoring. Our defense really needs to pick up, and when we start to chase in games, we don't seem to ever go anywhere. So the very next thing is going to be talking about the Celtics. The Celtics have had their win against the Rockets today. A very commanding win, is, I would say, 134-107. But of course, that is to second to dead last placed Rockets in their division. And that's why, for me, I look at it kind of just saying we had to have won this game. This was a hopeful momentum shifter for the Celtics to be able to start feeling themselves, get their more play in, see who from the bench can actually be more of a contributor for the team, because as of right now, we know who our starters are and what they can do, but then when it becomes the bench, that's where it becomes worrisome, because other than like maybe Pritchard and Robert Williams, maybe, Ojale is another pretty decent guy off the bench, but it's hard to say who else can really be effective coming off the bench for us to actually be our scorers, or to give the time to relief for our starters to sit on the bench, catch their breath, and just know that as soon as they are off the bench, then the scoring starts happening again. But when the starters are back on the bench, we become so cold. I mean, I reflect back to that Nets game that we just had the other day, where we were up 10 points to begin the first quarter, but then as soon as we started to put the starters on the bench and have the bench come up, immediately we lost that lead. Like, it was something I honestly just knew was going to happen. And we never were really able to get ourselves back into it, because we started off the game up by 10 points and ended up losing by more than 10 points by the end of the game. It just shows that this team has the ability to score, but has to have that reliability come from the bench to be able to do anything other than that from this point coming forward. Next game is against the Jazz, another really good team right now, and then we'll have the Cavaliers the very next day. So those two, we need to have wins, and we need to have not only just wins, but convincing wins, not these, oh, we can pull off the one-pointer wins by the end of the game. Yes, they still count as a W, but it comes to show that this team does struggle if they don't have the reliable bench. Very next thing I will talk about right now is going to be, again, we are only still in spring training, or spring camp I should say, for the Boston Red Sox. And right now they just had a tied finished game today against the Twins, 5-5. And well, it does show that there's promise. You know, a lot of the starters that I believe are going to be our beginning of the season starters are showing their promising you know, senses of being in the game. They do exactly what is necessary. They put themselves up early when they get that opportunity to. This game, we actually came back at the very end of the game, but ended up giving up the one run at the very end of the game as well to have it be a tied game come to the end. But we've shown that we have the people who have the power. There's been a lot of home runs that were hit in these last few games. I am feeling confident, and again, with one of my favorite players on the team, Xander Bogaerts, coming back and showing that he has the promise of being back into the full swing of things after his minor shoulder injury, that he does seem like he is going to be a very effective person again. And again, I can only hope that this team shows a great sense of promise. The pitching is always going to be the big question, but when we get Sale back, Erod looked perfect. You know, we still have Nathan Valdi. It's more of our relievers that has always been the question, especially for the last couple of years now. So from that point, we'll go directly into what is considered the biggest topic right now, which is, of course, the New England Patriots re-signing Cam Newton to a one-year deal. Of course, they say it's $14 million, but that's with all incentives, just like how it was like the previous year. And, you know, personally, I will say this first and foremost. I feel like this is a good deal, no matter what. I mean, don't get me wrong for saying that we basically got Cam Newton last year for like $1 million. This is like at least a thank you for doing what he had done for us last year and giving him that little extra money that he honestly probably deserved. I get it. Our score record was only 7-9, which doesn't show a great deal of promise when you are brought into a system, taught brand new within only a 2 months time period before the beginning of the season, and still was able to produce with what a lot of people always will consider a very, very weak offense. So for the fact that he was basically our offense and was unfortunately the reason why we ended up losing maybe like 4 more games than we needed to because of bad passes, fumbles at the very end of games, just not being able to go down the field and score. But you can't blame a guy who has no weapons, in the same sense of how and why Tom Brady said, I didn't like the weapons that he had. And if you actually look up some of the statistics, and I had it before, I completely lost it, but you know, Cam Newton actually had a better year with the Patriots last year than Tom Brady's last year. And that was with even worse weapons than Tom Brady had. Now, what does that really say about it? Well, to me, that basically just means one very simple thing. Cam Newton was the offense and was able to still do more than what Tom Brady was able to do with the weapons that he was provided. Tom Brady had all the weapons that was necessary and given to him when he went to the Buccaneers to be able to, make his standpoint to say, with weapons, I am still a very dominant quarterback. And with Cam Newton, it has only proven to me that he can still do what is necessary, even if it's by himself. Still the main man who has the most rushing touchdowns out of any quarterback since 2016. He is the one that, is a playmaker when he has people who can make plays for him. And that's going to be the biggest thing that I'll say coming up right now, which was also the other big announcement that one of our main offensive linemen, Marcus Cannon, was traded to the Texans, which I have no problem with. I mean, it sucks to know that a guy that was very reliable for us is currently gone, but we traded him away to get some better picks. And that's the best way that I can go about it right now, is knowing that this upcoming draft, this upcoming free agency, we need to start actually acquiring some playmakers. We actually need to start acquiring some good people in this draft, because the one thing I have put in reports as well is just because Cam did get signed does not necessarily mean he is going to be the starting quarterback again for this year. And the way I look at it is kind of just like how I saw when the Saints did it last year, when they were able to utilize Breeze, utilize Hill, utilize Winston, and put all three of their quarterbacks to actually get good, decent game plays with different kind of, playmakings that fit each quarterback. And that's exactly how I see it with Cam. Cam Newton can still throw the ball well. That I will not discredit him on. Bad passes are bad, but when he had people open downfield, it was pretty much one of the more accurate quarterbacks that we had last season. So say what you want about Cam Newton being, bad with his arm. He still is kind of possibly dealing with some bad injuries, being thrown into a system that he had no idea about until only 2 months before the actual season started. And at least with this time, we signed him early. We got him here in March. We have months and months and months of being able to work with him, be able to get him better game plans, allow him to understand who he's actually going to be working with, and put him into a system that he could feel more comfortable with and progress from that point forth. But honestly, it will come down to one big question, and that is, how is Bill Belichick going to get him the weapons necessary? But we'll figure all of that out and a little bit more when we get some more information. Right now, I want to just thank you guys again for coming on and watching this video. Please leave a like if you appreciated this, a comment for anything you want to suggest, and a subscription for any more content. And I am Cab, and I'm here to drive you crazy. Aloha, God bless, and take care.